In this video, we're going to go over how to conjugate regular ER verbs and then do some practice with them. So first, let's go over the steps for conjugating regular ER verbs. Step 1 is find the stem. And to find the stem, you remove the ER from the infinitive. Step 2 is add the endings. And in order to add the endings, you need to know what the endings are. So our endings for ER verbs are E, ES, E, ONS, EZ, ENT. Now we're going to do an example. In this example, we're going to conjugate the verb danser, to dance. First, we're going to find the stem. To find the stem, you remove the ER from the infinitive. So we're left with DANS as our stem. So I'm going to copy that down for each one of these. Step 2 is add the ending. The endings are E, ES, E, ONS, EZ, ENT. And that's how you conjugate a regular ER verb. Now let's do. For each sentence that you see, I want you to conjugate the verb that's in parentheses down here so that it goes with the subject that's provided. On your paper, you can write this down and then watch me conjugate it to see if you did it correctly. So first step is find the stem. To find the stem, we take off the ER. So we have CHANT. Then we add the ending. The ending that goes with je is E. Now what does this mean, je chante? Well, it means three things. It can mean I sing, I do sing, and I am singing. The cool thing is that since we speak English, we already, we don't have to learn the difference between these. We already understand it naturally. And when we're learning French, we only have to learn this one way of saying je chante. But if you were a French speaker learning English, you would have to learn the difference between these three ways of saying I sing, I do sing, and I am singing. So it's actually a little bit simpler for us as French learners than it is for French people who are learning English. Okay, this time we have the verb étudier, and our subject is nous. So first we're going to find the stem. And don't forget the accent mark on the E. And then the ending for nous is ONS. What does this mean? Nous étudions. We study. We do study. And we are studying. Let's try some. Okay, here we have the verb regarder, and the subject is tu. First, we're going to find the stem. And then we add the ending. The ending that goes with tu is es. And what are we saying here? Tu regarde. We're saying you watch. You do watch. And you are watching. Now, it might seem kind of silly that we're just saying you watch. Like, that's not that cool of a sentence, right? So you can add more to the sentence. Like, you can say, tu regardes la télé. You watch TV. Or you do watch TV. Or you are watching TV. But this part of the sentence is just like for fun. This is the subject and this is the verb. So right now what we're working on is subjects and verbs. You can always add more to your sentence to make them interesting. Okay, let's do more. Try this one. Travailler. Start by finding the stem. So this is just each of these letters. And then you add the ending. The ending should go with vous. The vous ending is ez. Vous travaillez. And what are we saying? You work. You do work. And you are working. Let's see if we can add some extra details to this. What if I wanted to say, you work at the cinema, at the movie theater? I can add here, au cinéma. Okay, but again, this is the subject and this is the verb. So that's what we're focusing on right now. This is just extra stuff for fun. Now we're going to do a bunch more, but we're not going to do this part every single time. So on the next screen, you're going to see a few different ones of these, and you're going to do all of them at once. Okay, here are some subjects with verbs after the lines. And this time I want you to conjugate all 6 of those verbs, all 6 of these, so that they match the subject that I provided. So go ahead and pause the video and you can write this out on your notebook and then press play when you're ready to go over the answers. Okay, now let's go over the answers. So first I'm going to go through and find the stem for each one of them. So I'm just going to do the stems here. C-H-A-N-T. Now I'm not done, that's just the stem. P-A-R-L. Stem for this one, D-A-N-S. Stem, E-T-U-D-I. Stem, E-T-U-D-I. And actually, this one's an exception. I didn't think of this before I wrote it. This one, since the subject or the verb starts with a vowel, we have to actually make this J apostrophe. So when your verb starts with a vowel, je always becomes J apostrophe. And then this last one, take off the ER, we've got E-C-O-U-T. Okay, now I'm not finished. Now I have to add my endings. So what's my to ending? ES. What's my L ending? ENT. Nous, ONS. Il, I. Je, I. Vous, EZ. Okay, so I did that by finding the stems first and then added the endings second. I just did all 6 of them with the stem and then all 6 of the endings. You can do them either way, but I want you to see that finding the stem is the same process for every single one of these. Now we're going to try some translating. Translating is where you go from one language to the other language. So I wrote an English sentence here, she swims. And your job is to write that sentence in French. How would you write she swims in French? So we're going to start with the subject. The subject is she, and in French, she is elle. And then we need a verb. So the verb for to swim is nager. Okay, and we got that from our vocabulary list. And then we need to conjugate the verb nager. So we're going to take off the er. Here's our stem, and then we add the ending that goes with elle. So it'll look like this. N-A-G is the stem, and the ending is E. Elle nage. She swims. I eat. Okay, what's our subject? How do you say I in French? Je. And then what's the verb for to eat? So the infinitive for to eat is manger. So now we need to conjugate that. So we take off the er, here's our stem, and then we add the ending that goes with je, which will be E. So it'll be je. Here's our stem. And here's our ending. Je mange. I eat. You, plural, play. Okay, so you, plural. You is the subject. We have 2 different ways of saying you in French. We either have tu or vous. Which one is the plural one? Vous. So if you're talking to more than one person, you'll use vous. So our answer will start with vous, and then you need the verb for play. So the infinitive is jouer, and then we need to conjugate that. So we take off the er, here's our stem, and then you add the ending that goes with vous, which is easy. So we have vous, here's our stem, J-O-U, and then the ending, easy. Vous jouez. You play. Okay, for this one, I want you to do kind of the same thing you did earlier. You're going to write all 6 of these sentences in French. So you're translating, you're writing them in French. And then, so go ahead and pause the video, and then when you're ready, you can press play to see the answers. Okay, now let's go over the answers. So number 1, I speak. So my subject is je, and my verb is parler. So when I conjugate it, I have P-A-R-L as my stem and E as my ending. Je parle. Number 2, he sings. Il is he. Sings is chanter. So my stem is C-H-A-N-T, and my ending is E. Number 3, we listen. Subject is nous. Stem is E-C-O-U-T. Don't forget the accent mark. And the ending is O-N-S. Number 4, they swim. And here I put F, so they feminine means L. To swim is nager, so my stem is N-A-G, and my ending is E-N-T. Number 5, you plural travel. You plural is vous. To travel is voyager, so my stem is V-O-Y-A-G, and my ending is E-Z. Last one, you singular work. So this is when I'm talking to one person. This is also, when I say singular, it technically could be vous, but I'm referring to two. And then to work is travailler, so it's travail. And the ending is ES. Now we're going to put my drawing skills to the test. Your job is to write a sentence in French using the subject I give you, so in this case it's je, and the verb is going to be whatever you see in the picture. So if you don't know what this is a television. So you're not going to say je television. You're going to say je and then the activity that involves television. So that would be regarder la télé. Okay, but I'm not going to write the verb out for you every time. I'm doing it now for an example. So this is what you're thinking in your head. And then you're going to conjugate that verb to make a sentence with this as the subject. So let's do this one together. So your answer to this would be je regarde la télé. So I watch TV. This is the conjugated verb. Here's my stem, and here's my ending. Now let's try some. Now why don't you try some on your own? Okay, here's the next one. Your subject is going to be tu, and your activity is going to be what you see in the picture. And if you can't tell what that's a picture of, it's water. So go ahead and write the sentence on your paper. And here's what I would write. Tu nages. Here's my stem, here's my ending. And maybe you added something else, like tu nages à la plage. You swim at the beach. But you didn't have to do that. All you had to do was the subject and the verb. Okay, here's the next one. Your subject is going to be elle. And if you can't tell what these are, they are music notes. So something to do with music. Well, what do you do with music? You listen to music. So here's the subject and the verb, and then maybe you added de la musique. Here's my stem, here's my ending. Just the T is part of the stem. And then de la musique is just like extra information that's fun to know. Okay, here's the next one. Vous is the subject. Okay, you should have written vous chantez. Here's the stem, here's the ending. Next one. Okay, here's my answer. Je mange. I eat. Here's my stem, here's my ending. Now, if you wanted to add something more to this, you could have said je mange la glace. I eat the ice cream. Here's the next one. And if you can't tell what this is a picture of, it's supposed to be a soccer ball. And it's probably the best soccer ball I've ever driven or ever drawn in my entire history as a French teacher. For some reason, soccer balls are really hard to draw. So our subject is nous, and our verb is to play. Here's my stem. Here's my ending. So we play, nous jouons, and you might have added something like au foot. Nous jouons au foot. Next one. What are they doing? Well, if you can't tell what these are little speech bubbles with people speaking. And what language are they speaking? French. So you could say they speak or are speaking. Okay, il parle is the subject and the verb, and you may have added le français. And I keep forgetting this. You don't actually need the word le when you're using this as, like in this sentence. Il parle français. Okay, now there's one more thing I want to go over about ER verbs. There is one exception that you'll need to know. So the exception is that when the stem of the verb ends in the letter G, add an E between the stem and ending in the nous form only. So if you don't have that in your notes, make sure you put that in your notes. And I want to show you what that looks like in an example. So we're going to conjugate the verb nager, to swim. Okay, I'm going to start by getting my subject pronouns ready. So je, tu, il, elle, on. I'm just going to put il. Nous, vous, and il. Now, how do you find the stem of an ER verb? You take off the ER. So our stem is NAG. Okay, so let's put our stem in. N-A-G, 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 N-A-G. Now we're going to add our endings. E, es, e. Now the new form, this is the exception. Okay, that's what the note up above says. In the new form, when the stem ends with a G, and this stem ends with a G, we're going to add an E before we put the ending on. So now we can put O-N-S, E-Z, E-N-T. And the reason we do that is because all of these other forms of the verb have an E right after the G. See how here we have G-E, 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 G-E? Well, this one, if we didn't put the extra E there, it would be G-O. And there's a rule that says when there's a G and an O next to each other, the G is pronounced G. And we don't want to say nagon when all the rest of them have a soft G. So it's not nage, it's nage. So it's nage, 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 nageon, nage, nage. Okay, so now let's try one last example with a verb that ends, or a verb where the stem ends with a G. Okay, let's do this one just like we did the ones before. So your subject is going to be nu, and your verb is going to be something that has to do with what you see in the picture. And if you can't tell what that is, it's supposed to be a piece of pizza. So what do you do with pizza? You eat it. So you're going to write the sentence, we eat. So your subject should be nous, and the verb is manger, but then we're going to conjugate it, so you take off the ER, so your stem is M-A-N-G. And now, because the stem ends with a G, and our subject is nous, this is that exception, now we're going to put an E here before we put on the ending. So O-N-S is our normal ending. So nous mangeons. And if you wanted to keep adding to the sentence, you could say la pizza. So nous mangeons. Let's do. Okay, here's the last one. If you can't tell what that's a picture of, it's supposed to be a picture of a suitcase. And I erased it about 3 times and redrew it, so I hope that you can recognize it. So what would you do with a suitcase? Probably you would travel with a suitcase. So you're going to write the sentence, we travel. Give you a clue, it starts with a V. There's the answer. Nous voyageons. Here's the stem, here's the ending, and here's that extra E. And our subject is nous. Okay, so that is everything you need to know so far about how to conjugate regular ER verbs.